Of course, you know, Hong Kong is a very, very unique city itself. All of you people, whether you are from Chinese origin or ethnic origin, you are yourself very unique. And I hope all of you can bring some change in Hong Kong through that uniqueness. Okay, that's something I'm going to be talking about during my talk. Yes, believe me, that's me. That's me. That's when I was 16 years old, okay? I was 16 years old. I don't look 16 maybe, but I was 16 years old that time. I decided, when I was 16, I decided, okay, I'm going to join the military. It was not because I wanted to go and fight a war or anything like that. I wanted to join the military because I wanted to do things. I wanted to fly airplanes, which I did. I wanted to jump out of helicopters, which I did. I wanted to, like, you see, scuba diving, and going in tanks, playing polo. I was a good polo player, handling all sort of different weapons, skydiving. That's what I used to do. Okay, so there was a certain mystique which drew me to the military, the armed forces, and I thought I have to go. And of course, at the same time, given the circumstances of Pakistan in my time when I was, although I still say I'm young, but when I was really 16 years old, there were not a lot of opportunities in business. So for me, one of the big things was join the military and have a good career in the military. So I enjoyed very good 5 years of being in the military, okay? And I started off as a lieutenant, some say lieutenant, some say lieutenant, and I was a captain when I was 21 years old. Then something interesting happened. I had an accident, okay? I had an accident. It was end of the world for me. You cannot imagine, you know, all these previous slides I've showed you, such active life. Except this one, of course, yeah. Such active life, and suddenly everything just comes to a complete halt. I was completely devastated. It was like, okay, what am I going to do now? It takes you some time to just get out of it and try thinking, how am I going to manage my life again? Because I have everything mapped out. I knew, okay, at this age I'm going to be a captain, which I was at about 21. This age I'm going to be a colonel. This age I'm going to be a brigadier, and then most probably I'm going to go and join the foreign services, etc. Everything was mapped out in front of me. But suddenly everything just came to a halt, and it was as if disaster had befallen me. You know, something interesting happened when I was in the hospital. The guy who was looking after me, the doctor who was treating me, he himself was in a wheelchair. Yeah, it was an interesting thing to happen. I don't know why it happened, but it was the case. And he was one of the top spinal injury surgeons in Europe. He himself was a very physically active guy. When he was a medical student, he broke his back, had a spinal injury while a climbing accident. He used to do mountaineering, had a spinal injury, but he didn't give up. He went on, finished his medical studies, became a doctor, and then even went on to become a surgeon, and even further went on to become one of the top spinal cord injury surgeons in Europe. So for me, just looking at him, and he didn't have to tell me anything when I first started interacting with him. I knew, Ajmal, all your problems are just minor, okay? All these things just mean nothing at all. I need to move on. I need to live my life. We all have the power of making our dreams come to fruition or real. If it can work for me, believe me, I think all of you have no excuse at all. You can do it as well. I'll further share my life, how things moved on. But to be very, very blunt also, I have to tell you something. It is very important to build certain competencies within ourselves. If we don't have those competencies, it's difficult to move, especially young people like you. And I'm being very blunt to all of you young people sitting here. We take things for granted. We don't realize that there are so many opportunities, there are so many things around us. We need to learn, we need to share, etc. I will elaborate on some of the competencies which we need to build, or you as young people need to build and need to explore life. It's actually some very simple things: attitude, discipline, adaptability, communication, integrity. I came to Hong Kong because I had an attitude. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to do something. I started applying for jobs. And in the 90s, early 90s, Hong Kong was a very happening place. It was economically really booming. It was very, very difficult to get into anything at that time. Especially for a guy like me in a wheelchair, Pakistani wheelchair, no Cantonese, it was difficult to find a job. And every time I applied for a job, hundreds and hundreds of jobs, believe me, I have same response every time. I was rejected, 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 rejected. It was very, very frustrating. I had a very, very frustrating half year or so. No jobs at all. But I had an attitude. I just didn't give up. I was stubborn is the wrong word to say. It's a negative word, but I was really stubborn. I wanted to make my life here in Hong Kong, and I continued. And I know many of you young people face similar issues. Okay? It would not give up. I continued looking for jobs. I had a good university background. Actually, I studied in Germany. I studied in Pakistan, and I had a good educational background. I thought I should be able to get a job in Hong Kong. Why not? But it was not possible. It's just not becoming possible. And eventually, this stubbornness, you can say, did pay off. But you know what? I was asked to come and fix computers. It was a job which didn't match with my education. I was quite overqualified for going and fixing computers and building networks, etc. But I said, okay, this is somewhere I need to look at myself and see how to use this how to explore this opportunity. So I became disciplined. I learned how to make opportunities actually work for myself, okay? Which is not an easy thing to do. Okay, this slide actually is a very interesting slide. I've presented many times, and I have actually deliberated on this slide myself many, many times. It is very easy for me to sum my whole life in one slide, okay? Right at the bottom, just struggling with work, being inundated with all sort of things, and slowly climbing up the corporate ladder. And why climbing up the corporate ladder? Because I made sure that people understood that I was ready to take responsibility. I was ready to do things. And they did give responsibility to me. And I slowly went up and up in the corporate ladder, to the point where I became, right at the top, you say, I became the CEO of City Line, which was about 8, 9 years ago, something like that. So it's not just my attitude, discipline. It's very important. It was also adaptability. I had to adapt to the life in Hong Kong. I started coming on magazine covers, being involved with local, different various community programs, etc. It came to a point that I had used these attitude, discipline, adaptability, communication, integrity. Integrity, again, very, very important. It's basically how you fit yourself in a community and how you are true to yourself and how the community looks at you and how your peers look at you and how you look at your peers. It's a very important component. So right now I've just been applying all of this to my, I go back, I'll go further. I've been applying to this, my profession, all these principles to my profession. But you know what my life was before? I was a very physically active person, physically fit person. So I started exploring, okay, I have come to a point where my life has changed to very big degrees, from being rejected for any job in Hong Kong to actually running a group of companies in Hong Kong. It is a huge, huge change. I said, okay, I'm going to push myself further, and I'm actually going to do something physically. I started started applying these principles and started taking part in triathlons and marathons and hand biking, to a point where actually also doing scuba diving. Scuba diving, again, triathlons, marathons, came to a point that I was doing very well. Last year, 2009, in Ironman, I was first overall in my category in Singapore. Okay? Thank you. But, and also in 2008 or 2007, I don't remember exactly, I got a silver medal in China for hand biking, all China hand biking competition. So it was all about making things, impossible things, and making them possible. Okay, turning things around. So my life had come to a complete circle. I still, in spite of all of this, I still was very hungry. I wanted more things to happen in my life, more challenges to happen in my life. And I again looked at my life and I used these principles, and I divulged into something completely impossible. I started my own company 2 years ago. I started ASAP, transaction processing, with the support of my friends and other people around me, and I made it possible. I wanted to be my own boss, and I did it. I had my own company going. So basically, in the end, I'd like to conclude that we all have a privilege of living in a very unique city. A city that is made prosperous and successful by all sort of people. Complete range of people. My story is unique, yes, but so is yours. Everybody has a unique story. Okay? And it's our uniqueness. We must learn certain characteristics and abilities in order to make contributions to the society. It's very, very important. So making impossible dreams possible is not impossible. It is possible.